Habits of the financially wealthy. Anytime you hear someone toss out a phrase like that, you see a headline like that, watch out. It's likely to be clickbait. It's likely to be someone trying to sell you something to take your money. Well, let me tell you right now, I don't want your money, at least not right now as it relates to this. I want you to just listen, think, and share. There are certain habits that the financially wealthy do differently. There's one habit in particular that I think does not get enough attention. You don't need me to tell you the financially wealthy save money every month. You don't need me to tell you a lot of financially wealthy invest in real estate and in assets that are creating income. Robert Kiyosaki has done a fantastic job of telling people that for decades. Where I think people really don't understand the core strength of the financially wealthy is how much money the financially wealthy invest back in themselves. Now, historically, this was done by lots of fancy degrees at places like Harvard and Stanford and Columbia, Oxford. Historically, this was done by jetting across the world to Davos and various conferences to hear great lecturers. But increasingly, what the wealthy are doing are exactly what anyone can do. In fact, what you're doing right now, and that is to educate themselves. Their attitude towards education is not simply get a degree, check the box, and then you're set for life. No. The really wealthy people in the world, for the most part, unless they are just born billionaires and they don't care, but people who create wealth and build wealth and want to see it grow continually invest in themselves. This can be in the form of books, ebooks, listening to podcasts. Sometimes it takes no money at all to simply listen to a podcast. Once you have the infrastructure of a cell phone, it doesn't require a lot of money. It could be an expensive coaching program or mentorship program or a virtual MBA. It could be that, but it doesn't have to be. But unlike a lot of people, the wealthy don't just continue to learn for the sake of learning. That's a part of what they do, and they love to learn. But a part of what they do also is to learn more about what they are best at, so they can continue to get better and better and better. And they can continue to charge more in whatever it is they do. I don't mean to suggest that all wealthy people are consultants billing by the hour. It could be that they are real estate investors. It could be that they are angel investors in startups, high-tech startups. But when they study more and more and more, sometimes an angel investor might look at 1,000 business plans before saying yes to one. The 999 you said no to were an essential part of your education to enable you to know which one to say yes to. In my experience, when I'm around people who are extraordinarily wealthy, yes, they have a good time. And some of my clients have 400-foot yachts and own baseball teams, but everything isn't fun and games all the time. They do have fun. They have intense fun. You look at someone like Richard Branson, he seems to have a lot of fun on islands and ballooning, but they're always learning. Bill Gates prides himself in reading a couple of very intense, long, detailed books every single week. It's not that he needs to make more money. He's already, depending on the day, one of the top 2 or top 5 wealthiest people in the world. But he's doing it to get even better at what he does. Now he's in the stage of his life where he's trying to give away his money to make the maximum impact on his money. So he wants to make more, not for himself, but for humanity. And I realize some people don't like him, and you may think that's a puff piece for him. I'm not trying to shill for Bill Gates, but he's clearly not doing all this reading to just make more money for himself. So my number one challenge to you would be to figure out how can you allocate more time every single day to learn more about some specific skill you have. It may be broadly learning something, but what can you do? In my own life, I try to consume books 3 different ways every single way. I try to read one book every single day on Blinks or InstaRead, and these are short abridged books. I realize some people may think that's cheating, but I read at least one book on that each day. I also listen to an abridged audiobook every single day, and I also read a paper book every single day. I don't finish an entire paper book every single day. In fact, I'll be talking to you in a minute about this book, Tiny Habits, the latest book that's really made a splash in the whole world of habits. And I'm halfway through this. I'm really taking my time because there's so many good nuggets here. I'll be sharing with you some of those nuggets shortly. So that is really the number one thing I think that's different about the wealthy when it comes to how they think, how it relates to their own finances. They are constantly reinvesting in themselves, their knowledge, their ability to learn, their ability to stay at a higher level of the economic food chain. We live in an era where artificial intelligence is destroying job after job after job. It's not just taxi drivers who've lost their jobs to the artificial intelligence running Uber, and those drivers are then putting them out of business. It's happening in industry after industry. Easy stuff becomes a commodity. Easy skills, easy jobs are either going to vanish because of computers, or the compensation gets lower and lower and lower every year because there's more competition coming in from computers and artificial intelligence. You don't suffer from that if you're constantly trying to figure out how to do harder things, more difficult things. So that is my number one challenge to you if you aspire to be wealthy, is to figure out how can you continue to learn more and more and more every day in as wide a path as possible, but also in a way that helps you specialize. I like to read all kinds of things. It could be news about NFL coaches, and I don't even care about football. It could be stories about cooking. It could be anything, but I'm trying to get better and better and better at one particularly hard skill right now. I like to challenge myself, test myself. Right now, the biggest challenge in my life is I'm trying to do a daily live stream show about personal development on more than a dozen platforms all at the same time all over the world. So you may be watching me today on YouTube. You may be watching on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. This is a relatively hard thing to do. There are very few people doing personal development shows live for 2 hours a day on a gazillion platforms. Doesn't mean that I'm special or I deserve a reward for it, but at least I'm trying. I'm trying to do something that technically, there's a lot of technical issues. It's hard to do. And this particular skill is not going to be taken over by a computer anytime soon. At some point it could be, but right now I'm far enough ahead that it can't be taken over by a computer, and that is why I am doing it. I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve. That is the number one secret of the financially wealthy. I'll be sharing with you later tips today, other sources, other blogs, other habit resources, what the wealthy are doing. But that's my take. I'd like to hear from you. Again, I'm TJ Walker. I'm the Habit Influencer. This is the Habit Influencer Show. And the origin of that name is not that I am the all-knowing guru and I'm going to lay my hands on you and make you perfect. No. The reason we call this Habit Influencer is I'm trying to teach myself and you how to influence your own habits. That's what it's about. So much of my methodology is about you figuring out the lifestyle you want. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And then really isolating what are the daily habits that will lead you to your ultimate goals? And then what are the techniques that will help you reach your goals? That's what it's all about.